So,
Oh my god, Lily! I've been absolutely following this whole Snow White saga and it's just been wild, you know what I mean? Welcome everyone to Popcorn Hour where we dive into all the latest film news. And this Snow White controversy is like the perfect example of how a movie that should have been straightforward has turned into this absolute nightmare for Disney.
right? This was supposed to be their big remake of their very first animated feature from 1937, but instead, it's become this lightning rod for controversy. What exactly happened?
Well, okay, so the problem started way back in 2016 when Disney first announced they were developing it. That's nearly a decade ago, but the real drama kicked off when they cast Rachel Zegler, who's American with Colombian heritage, as Snow White. And people they totally lost their minds about it, right? Because in the original story, Snow White is described as having skin as white as snow.
Oh, wow. So people were upset about the casting? That seems predictable these days.
Exactly. And it wasn't just mild criticism. Ziegler actually said in Cosmopolitan that people were showing up at her apartment screaming profanities, like actual harassment. And then there was this whole other controversy with her comments about the original movie being extremely dated in how it portrays women, and saying Snow White wouldn't be saved by the prince in this version.
That sounds actually reasonable. The original is from 1937.
Totally reasonable. But you know how things are now. Everything gets twisted. The right-wing media had a field day with it, saying Disney was going woke and ruining classics. But then, get this. There was also controversy from the other side when Peter Dinklage criticized the whole concept of the seven dwarves living in a cave as backwards.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that angle. That's a really good point.
Right? And so Disney's solution was to make them CGI magical creatures instead of casting actual dwarf actors, which then created, a whole new controversy because they were taking away potential jobs from dwarf performers. And then there's Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen.
What happened with her?
So Gadot is Israeli and has been really supportive of the IDF, while Zegler has been vocal in supporting Palestine during the Gaza conflict. So there were all these rumors about bad blood between them, which just added another layer to this already messy situation. It's just been one thing after another.
Wow. This movie seems cursed. So how is Disney handling all of this?
Not well, Lily, not well at all. They scaled back the premiere 6 days before release, limiting media presence to just friendly in-house press. They only opened ticket sales 2 weeks before the premiere, which is super unusual for them. Like for Lion King and Little Mermaid, they started selling tickets a whole month in advance. They're clearly trying to just get this movie out with minimal drama.
Is the movie actually any good? After all this drama?
That's the thing. Reviews are actually okay. Not amazing, but not terrible either. The Hollywood Reporter called it mostly captivating, and the New York Times said it was perfectly adequate. But with a $270 million budget, adequate isn't really what Disney was hoping for, you know what I mean? They're projecting maybe $40–50 million domestic opening and over $100 million globally, which it's fine, but nowhere near what Beauty and the Beast made.
So, after 9 years of development, countless controversies, and a massive budget, they end up with perfectly adequate. That's kind of fascinating, actually.
It really is, and I think it shows how complicated it's become to remake these classic stories for modern audiences. You're trying to update outdated elements while staying true to what people love, and meanwhile, every decision gets scrutinized from every possible angle. It's just a total minefield.
Well, I'm actually kind of curious to see it now, just to see how they navigated all these issues. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts on Snow White?
I guess what I find most interesting is that despite all the noise and drama, the movie's fate will probably come down to whether mothers and daughters, the core audience for this, actually show up to see it. No amount of Twitter outrage matters if the target audience still enjoys it, you know? The controversy might even help ticket sales by keeping it in the conversation.
Well, this has been fascinating, Chase. Thanks for breaking it all down. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Popcorn Hour. We'll be back next week with more film news and discussions.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And remember, whether a movie's good, bad, or just perfectly adequate, there's always something interesting to talk about. See you next time on Popcorn Hour.